Okay, Bishop Chandler. So, done the video, a live Eucharist at Christ Church this morning. Just a preface, we normally have about 8 more people, but due to scheduling conflicts, work schedules, and things like that, it's a couple folks out of town. It was just a handful of us, me, a visiting priest, well, probably about 10 more people, because there are a couple visiting priests. One is with us every Sunday, one is with us off and on, just depending on what his schedule is. He's not parochial, which means he's not assigned to a specific church, so he does a lot of supply work. When he's not supplying, he comes and worships with us. A quick note about regardless of how many people come to church, even if it's just me, I'm canonically required to celebrate the Holy Communion at least once a week on Sundays. About the missal I told you about, we use the American Missal, which contains the 1928 prayer book canon. It also contains the prayer book of 1549, the canon from the prayer book of 1549, which was the first book of common prayer, predates the Tridentine Mass. There is also the Tridentine Mass canon in the American Missal. The Liturgy of Saint Tikhon is in there. That missal would probably be more than what you need. It's published by Lancelot Andrews Press, and I believe it's about $199 or $200. Here is another altar edition book. This is the altar edition, the altar book for the Reformed Episcopal Church. Pretty good quality covers, good pages. You can get this from the Reformed Episcopal Church. I believe it is $30 plus shipping. And this book contains 2 Eucharistic canons, or 2 Eucharist services. There is the 1928 canon and the 1662, which both of those canons are in the Reformed Episcopal Prayer Book. This book also includes all of the Gospels and epistle readings for every Sunday in the church year, and also the collects as well. So this is a pretty good book to use. If you're only going to be using the 1928, this is a pretty good book. I would probably use this on a regular basis, which the only time I actually use this is for like sick visits. If I'm doing visiting the home, there's a few people whose home I may visit and do communion at. It's more portable, not as big and heavy as the big altar missal, but this about the same size, but it's much thinner, a lot lighter, good size wording on the pages. So I just wanted to give you that as a recommendation, because it's a lot more affordable. Missals can be on the high end. And that's about, I think when it comes to missals, that's about it. The first book of Common Prayer was published in 1549. It was the work of Archbishop Thomas Cranmer, who was the incumbent Archbishop of Canterbury at the time that the Church of England separated from the Roman See. The second book of Common Prayer would come about in 1552. It was a revision of the 1549. Thomas Cranmer was definitely taking the Church of England in a more Protestant direction. He was heavily influenced by the Continental Reformers in Europe. Cranmer would die, let's see, Henry died. His son took the throne. Edward died shortly after the 1552 prayer book was put forward, and Bloody Mary ascended the throne in England and reinstituted the Roman Catholic religion in England. So the 1552 did not have a very long life in the Church of England. When Mary died, she didn't have a very long reign. She did manage to kill a lot of Protestants, and she's known as Bloody Mary, burned them at the stake. She burned Archbishop Cranmer at the stake. She also burned Nicholas Ridley, Hugh Latimer, great men of God. They were martyred for the faith. The next Book of Common Prayer that would come out would be the 1559 prayer book, and that was sort of a slight revision of the 1552. And 1559 did not have a very long, when you look at the grand scheme of things, looking at about 400 or 500 years of the prayer book tradition, it wasn't used for a good span of time, but not, for when you look at the Roman Catholic Church, where the Tridentine Mass was the norm up until the 1960s or 70s. The 1559 didn't have a very long life, though it was used for a good while up until 1662, when the 1662 Book of Common Prayer came out. That is still the official prayer book of the Church of England, although it's been largely replaced with something called Common Worship. That's used more commonly in the Church of England, but because the Church of England is a state church, and changing the official liturgy would require an act of parliament, which they tried to do in 1928. There is the proposed prayer book of 1928 of the English Church. It failed to be approved by Parliament because it was going to take the Church of England in a much more Anglo-Catholic direction. I actually have that prayer book in my collection. So it failed. The 1662 remained the official prayer book of the Church of England, but they largely used something called Common Worship now at this point. In the American Church, when they came to the New World, 1662 was used here in the States, I believe. Let's see, after the American Revolution, and the Anglicans in the United States were no longer a part of the Church of England, so they had to form their own independent church called the Protestant Episcopal Church in the United States of America. In I believe in the 1790s, they put forward their own Book of Common Prayer, and then the prayer book would be revised, I believe, a couple of times. I think there was an edition of 1892, which was not in use for very long. In 1928, the Oxford movement, which was the Anglo-Catholic movement, heavily influenced the Episcopal Church, and the 1928 American prayer book was put forward. That would be in use until 1979, when the 79 prayer book was put forward. When I was the vicar of a small Episcopal church in Walterboro, I was the vicar there for about 8 years, Church of the Atonement. When I first came in, the 79 prayer book was the book that was being used. We used Rite 1 of the prayer book. There are two rites in the 1979, but it just got to a point where I was burdened by my conscience in using the 79 prayer book. One of the reasons was the editing of the Prayer of Humble Access and Rite 1. They deleted the sentence that our sinful bodies may be made clean by his body and our souls washed through his most precious blood. And it just got to a point where I could no longer use the 79 in good conscience. And so because Atonement was a church in the Diocese of South Carolina, the Diocese of South Carolina had pulled away from the Episcopal Church and was flirting with the Anglican Church in North America. I started using the proposed text that were put forward by the Anglican Church in North America. The Diocese of South Carolina would eventually join the Anglican Church in North America. And last year, about a year now, I left Atonement. I gave an offer where I could do 2 Sundays a month, but it's a 50-mile drive from where I live at there, and it just got to a point where I believe the Lord was taking me away. So I offered to give them 2 Sundays a month, and they didn't want that, and so we just had to part ways. I am now a priest in the Orthodox Anglican Church, which is a part of a larger group called the Orthodox Anglican Communion. I was originally I was ordained a priest in 2009 and 2010. Archbishop Charles Klughart, who at the time was the Superior General of a religious society, a priestly society called the Servants of the Good Shepherd, consecrated me a bishop. I operate in the Orthodox Anglican Church with simply just a license as a priest. I've only been given facilities as a priest that recognize the consecration, but there's no need for another bishop. And I didn't want any episcopal responsibilities. I only petitioned to join just to have faculties as a priest, and so we agreed to that. And so I have been with the Orthodox Anglican Church for about a year now, and I'm very happy with them. Solid group of individuals. Some of them are probably a little more Anglo-Catholic than I am. I am high church, definitely, but I am very Augustinian or Reformed in my theological thinking, and at least that's the way I lean. The Archbishop is pretty Reformed too, but you do have a few priests who are very Anglo-Catholic, bordering on the line of Roman Catholicism. But it's a good jurisdiction. It's had some issues in the past that are still trying to be repaired. It was a larger jurisdiction at one time, but they lost some congregations. They lost one to the Diocese of South Carolina with some issues that had happened in the past, and so that particular church decided to realign itself with a different body. But we have taken in probably, I think, 3 churches in the last year. So God is blessing us. We just want to be faithful to the gospel and to the Anglican tradition. I hope that what I've put forward here can be of some help to you and informing your liturgical practice. I grew up Pentecostal. I grew up in a small Pentecostal denomination called the Biblical House of God, which had separated, a group that had separated from the House of God. Keith Dominion, I think, was the name of it. And when I was 17, the Lord called me into ministry. I was licensed as a minister in the Pentecostal church. When I decided to seek theological education, I found an online school affiliated with Anglicanism, and that's when I sort of had a conversion that happened where I embraced the historic ancient faith, and a couple years later I was ordained. I came under Episcopal ordination, was ordained a priest in 2009, on Reformation Day actually, in 2009. But I sincerely hope that this is of some help to you, and God bless you, God bless your ministry. And of course, you always have a friend in me, a brother in me, and if I can be of any assistance, don't hesitate to reach out. God bless.